What's up everybody? So in this video I'm going to be showing you how to replace your Braille lines on a cast net. These right here. Maybe you got it hung up, broke some off, something like that, and you need to fix them. So I'm going to show you how to do that, so stick around. Alright, so we got our net all spread out here. This is an 8-foot cast net that I use. I got it hung up on a tree and broke some of the Braille lines, and now some of them are they kind of got all stretched out and they're all just a mess right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and completely take them all out and put all new ones on. That way they're all nice and straight and clean, and it throws for you much better. So whether you have, you know, a few that broke off or almost all of them, this will be the method you use to repair that. So if you've watched any of my other videos on my net prep, you'll see where I show whenever you get a new net to go ahead, and when it's important when you get a new net to mark all your Braille lines with either like a permanent marker or some spray paint or something. That way you know where all your Braille lines go. That way if they do break off, you don't have to figure out where to tie them all off at. So, but if you didn't do that, usually you'll at least have a couple still tied on. It'll give you an idea. You at least mark the ones that are still on there, and you'll be able to kind of measure your distance to know where to go with the rest of them. So, and then when they're all replaced, go ahead and mark with the paint like I did. So next time if anything does break off, or maybe you just have one or two pop off while you're out in the boat, you can quickly put them in there and retie them to those spots without having to spread it out and try and figure out where they go. So that's just a little tip there. And that'll help out a lot. So we're going to go ahead and go around the edges here. We're going to start clipping all these off and pull them all out so we can start making a whole new one. So, all right, so I got my fingernail clippers here. I'm just going to go around clipping them off carefully. You don't want to clip your net or anything, so you just kind of clip them off of there, pull them loose. We're going to go around and do that to all of them. Alright, so now we got them all clipped off here. You can see we have our nice little painted spots where we're going to retie all the new ones. Some nets are different on how many lines, you know, just kind of depends on what size they are. On, you know, what they got going on with that. So we're going to pull this through here. As you can see, we got them all out here. This whole mess right here. We're gonna get this all worked out here. We'll get our lengths figured out, and I'll show you that here next. All right, so what you're gonna need to replace your Braille lines is just some heavy-duty monofilament fishing line. On these bigger, heavier nets, I usually use, this is 80-pound test. You wanna use something along that line. Smaller nets will probably have a smaller pound test Braille line, so you just have to kind of figure out. But on these bigger nets, we run an 80-pound. We just got a roll of this, nothing fancy, doesn't have to be any high-end mono, just some cheaper stuff I got at Bass Pro. And we're gonna cut these to length. So this is an 8-foot net, so that means you're gonna have to double your length and then add a foot to it. So this being an 8-foot net, it'll be 16-foot long lines with a foot added, so a total of 17-foot long lines. And then if you count inside there, you'll see in the horn there we had 6 apiece, so that means there's going to be 12 total pieces that are going to be folded in half. So we need to make 12 of them at 17 foot long, and we're going to do that, and we're going to measure these out. So let's do that next. All right, so once you figure out what your Braille length's got to be, you'll get your tape measure. I got me a tape measure stretched out here. This is where you want to have an extra hand. I don't really have one today. I'm going to have to do this kind of the hard way, but I'll explain to you how to do it much easier. So you'll just have your extra person. They'll take your line down at the end of the tape there, and you'll stretch it tight. You'll mark your halfway mark with like a Sharpie or something onto your Braille line. And then you'll stretch it out to that full length amount, and you'll cut it off. So whatever your length needs to be, you need to know what your halfway mark's going to be. So you'll just stretch it, halfway mark, go up, cut your full length, do the next one, stretch it, halfway mark, full length. And then as you're doing that, you're making your halfway mark on your Braille line. You'll have all your marker marks right at the half, because you're gonna have to find the center of all these for where that where it goes through that plastic tubing, and your swivel and all that needs to go right nice and center, so they'll go. So you'll make sure to do that. You may have to do this the hard way, but if you got yourself a helping hand, it's definitely going to be easier for you. So we're going to do that real quick, and then we'll get on to the next step. All right, so you can see we got all of our lines cut here to length. We got 12 of them here. So if for some reason if your Braille lines all break out, for the most part you don't know how many or whatever go in evenly in that horn, you can kind of also look at just right here. You'll be able to count how many's on the one side, and that's how many you'll have to make. And then you just separate them equally throughout that horn. So we're going to go ahead and get this all out, these old lines out of here, and I'll show you how to do that. So usually they come with something like this little bit of piece of metal here crimped on, and they usually have some kind of plastic that you put your lines through. For some reason yours doesn't have this, or damages anyway, you can also use, once you get your line to the center, you can actually use electrical tape and wrap it in that as well to replace that if you need to for some reason. But we're going to go ahead and take a pair of pliers and open this up so we can get all this out of there. And we're going to want to try, if you have this, try to save this so we can reuse it. But like I said, if for some reason yours doesn't have it, or you can make one with some electrical tape. So just got to take and try to open this up with some pliers. They're usually pretty soft, so you don't have to go too crazy on them. Just kind of put the crimp side facing that way, and then I'll just kind of pinch down with the pliers a little bit, and they'll usually open it up pretty good. We're just going to kind of work that out of there. See that? And it slides right out. We're going to pull that through here. We're just going to go ahead and cut these off so I don't have to fight it all through there, since these are going in the trash anyway. See, we just clipped them off, then we'll be able to pull this out a lot easier, and we'll save this. And then now you can get your part there, and we're going to save this rubber piece. Going to go ahead and pull all these lines out of here, or plastic, whatever it is. All it is, some kind of tubing. See, it kind of got stretched out a little bit, but all right, we'll save that as well. So next up now, we're going to take this and we're going to start running our lines through it. And we'll show you what to do next after that. So just going to take one. It's simple. You just start running them through there. I want to get them to about the halfway point of this line, depending on the size of your net. So we'll start pulling these all through, and then we'll show you the next step. All right, so you can see we got them all pulled through there. And like I said, it's a lot easier if you have a way of somebody to mark that center for you while you got them stretched out. It's a lot easier to find center. You just bring the marks all right here to the center of the plastic part there. All right, so you can see I put a screw down there on the end, and I just got that centered up there. Since we got them all somewhat centered, you're going to want to pull the two ends together here. Make sure they're pretty close. Most of them are. All right, you can see they're all within half inch of each other, half-quarter inch of each other. As long as they're that close, we can go ahead and get them all together here. And then we'll just snip off just that little bit there so they're all nice and even. And there you have it, all nice and even and nice and centered. And you don't want to lose that. You don't want to let them slide through that. That's when we're going to get up there and get them all crimped down and fastened so they don't move on you here. Alright, so we're going to run it back through our swivel here. Like I said, make sure your lines don't move in there. You want to keep them nice and centered. Run them all through back through that. Like so. We'll run that back all the way up where it goes. Again, don't let your lines come uneven here. Alright, so we got that back on there. We got to double check, make sure our lengths are all good, and once they are, we're going to crimp this back down on there. Big pair of pliers here and re-crimp it down on there. Nice and tight. Alright, it's back on there, and I would advise, which I'm probably going to do here shortly after the video when I can find my electrical tape, wrapping down here and wrapping down this end on each one. What that's just going to do is ensure that these don't slip on you when you're out in your net and you're pulling it back up or you get a little hung up. You don't want these shifting on you. This crimper is supposed to help with that, but it doesn't always do that. That tape will kind of give you some reassurance to keep that from sliding around in there so much. Alright, so now I got my net all stretched out here, all spread out, and we're going to start feeding it through the horn of the net here. Remember, you'll take note of however many go into each one, or just got to have it evenly through there and broke up in 4 ways. So we're going to take our first 6, and you want to make sure they're all from the same side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, we'll take these 6. Let's feed it through the first one here. Like so. We'll put 6 through that first area. And then we'll start running 1 to one of your marks out there. And then we'll just start going in the same direction with those 6. And then we'll go to the next hole. You'll put those 6 through there. Start tying it off. The next 6, start tying it off until you just keep going around. Then you'll have them all tied off and you'll be pretty much good. So we'll start running these through here. So I got my arm up through here. Grab my 6. You want to make sure none of the braille lines are through any of the netting. And you'll pull them through out like so. And then we'll just start tying off from there. We'll go to our first marking here. I'll just kind of put my foot on these other lines here. And then type of knot, I mean, you can tie whatever knot you're comfortable with that will work here. I use like a hangman's knot. But you want to make sure your lengths all stay the same, so you don't want to tie your knot higher on some than on the others. So the trick here is just to make sure your tag lines are all about the same length, so they're all being tied evenly. So I'm just going to tie like a decent little knot here. Sometimes this stiff mono, this heavy mono, can be kind of hard to work with, but all right. So whatever pull it nice and tight. All right, so whatever knot you tie, you want to make sure each knot you tie, the tag line stays about the same. So you want to kind of control that as you're tightening it. And pull it snug, make sure it's tight. Because if you got some with real long tag lines, that means you're tied up too high and your net won't pull together evenly. So just kind of keep an eye on that. And then once you get all your tag lines same length, you want to snip off any heavy extra tag line because it kind of get hung up in your net. But you want kind of something like that. And we're just going to keep doing that until we get them all tied on nice and evenly. All right, so I got the first 6 tied through. Now we're gonna get the next 6 on the same side. You'll pull all those loose ones. You want to make sure they're not all tangled up. Separated them there, make sure there's no twists or knots right there. And then we're going to run these through the next section and continue tying off from there. All right, so now we got them all tied on there. That pretty much completes the project. We're just going to stretch this out here. And you want to make sure that when it hangs, it all hangs. You don't want to side up like this. That'll mean something got tied unevenly or one of your braille lines is off. You want to just let them hang. See how they all hang kind of evenly within reason. If that's the case, you're good to go. If you happen to have one coming up short somehow, you're just going to have to go through and figure out what went wrong there. So, and then you got your little bit extra braille line there. That's why you want to leave some extra. I usually leave a foot. It might be a good idea to leave maybe 1.5 feet. So when your net stretches, you have a little bit more. But all right, well, this completes this project. As you know, these nets can be kind of expensive, so you want to kind of learn how to repair these things, save yourself some money. A little bit of time consuming sitting there tying all that up, but it's worth it in the end. For some of these nets are over $100, sometimes over $200. So you want to take the time to learn how to repair these so you kind of save a little bit of money. All this really cost me to repair was some monofilament line. Was really all I needed to buy. Usually have some laying around, but heavy duty monofilament line and you're good to go. Now that it's all put back together, if you didn't mark all your braille lines, now would be the time to do it. So if one pops loose or more later on, you'll know exactly where they go, and you'll be able to fix it much quicker. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. You can check out some of these other ones, and we'll see you on the next bite.